We are in Matthew chapter 5, and we're live all over the world right now. I'm so glad you're here with us. We're coming to you from sunny Southern California, and we are in Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, verse 38, the words of Jesus. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil, circle resist. But if anyone slaps you, circle slaps you, on the right cheek, turn to him the other as well. And if anyone would sue you, circle sue you, and take your tunic, have him take your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you, circle forces you, to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. You ever wanted to punch somebody? Okay, we got one person out of like 1,000. Yeah. You ever wanted to just step back and smack a person? Okay, 14 people are with me now. Great, now we're getting somewhere. No, all of us have, right? There's been points where you're so angry at somebody, you want to take out your anger and you want to do something to them because of the hurt that's in you. Or you want to do something, you want to make them feel as bad as you feel. If you have physical pain, you want to give them pain. You have emotional pain, you want to give them pain. If you have pain, they're going to get pain. I'm going to walk you through one of the most native and natural feelings of being human and how to navigate not just anger, but vengeance. Vengeance is the outworking of the anger I feel inside, whether right or wrong. Could even be a righteous anger. But how I bring that into the world or not literally might direct the path of my life. And many of us are in this state right now. We're angry about something. Something's happened, something's gone wrong, something in our past. When we think of a person, we just go, I hope they're dead. Or if they already are dead, we're like, man, I'm glad they're dead. I wish they were dead. And guess what? If you're not like that right now, you're like, no, I don't have any of those feelings right now. It's coming. There will come a day when you're like, I remember what Pastor Jim said about that. So here we go. Ready? I'm either speaking to you right now or I'm speaking to your future self. Because Jesus is going to talk to us about a common thing that if you don't get control in this area, it's going to blow your life up. Here it is. If you got your notes, pull them out. They should be inside your bulletin if you came on campus. If you're online with us, at the top of the comment section on Facebook and on YouTube, you see a link at the very top. Click on that and my notes will come up. By the way, how are my fireplace people? Third service. Praise God, my people. Here we go. Number one, let's start where Jesus starts. Here's how to deal with your vengeance. Let's start where Jesus starts with number one. God upholds corporate justice. I'm going to break something into pieces for you here because I want you to understand this. Because I've even heard commentators totally screw this passage up. This whole thing, everything that Jesus talks about in this Sermon on the Mount, is individualized. It's not governmental. So look at this whole passage. This whole sermon is topical. Jesus hits topic after topic after topic after topic. If you don't like topical sermons, you'll hate Jesus. Look at this: anger, lust. How you doing in your lust? How you doing in your anger? How you doing in your divorce? How you doing in your oaths? How you doing with retaliation, which is what I'm talking about today. Next week, we're going to go right out of retaliation into how to love your enemy. So everything is individualized. It's not for the corporate. It's not for nations or governments. It's for me. It's for you. How do I deal with these things? So here we go. From creation, at the very beginning, God designed humanity, me and you, to be self-regulating. We are designed to self-regulate and live under the reign of God while we ruled the earth. So everybody pay attention. I'm going to let you know why you have a government. Everybody love our government we got right now? Some of us are like, it's the best. Some of us are like, it's the worst. Guess what? It doesn't matter. You have a government, okay? For better or for worse, you have a government over you. There's going to be people in your government you love. There's going to be people in your government you can't stand. It's going to be that way for the rest of your life, so get used to it. Here we go. I'm going to teach you why we have a government. Many of us are like, why are there governments all over the world, all the way through history? Why does that happen? Here it is. We were built, mom and dad, Adam and Eve, the very first two humans, were built without sin because they're built from God. Builds Adam and Eve. They were built to self-regulate. I don't have a sinful nature, and so I'm not compelled to sin. I don't sin against my spouse. I don't sin against God. I don't sin against the world. There's no interior pull for me to want to do sin. So what that means is this: I can self-regulate very easily. I don't steal. I don't cheat. I don't take advantage of people. It's awesome. We are built to self-regulate. And then once you realize you have kids, you go, wow. You ever heard the word no at home? Or that's dumb? Or I got the stupidest parents ever made? Obviously, you're like, why are you talking to me like that, 3-year-old? You don't even know the world, girl. Like, you don't even live if I'm not here. Are you talking smack to me? What? Where does that even come from? I'll show you where it comes from. Now sin enters the world. Ready? Sin enters the hearts of our first mom and dad, Adam and Eve. Now we are children of them. We have a problem, which is our sin problem, which is just rebellion. I don't want to listen to you. I don't have to listen to you. I don't even have to listen to what you're saying. That little thing inside of you, I'm not going to listen to a cop. I ain't going to listen to a pastor. I ain't going to listen to a president. I ain't going to listen to the military. I ain't going to listen to that person over there. I have to listen to you. I'm gonna, you know that thing? That's just a sinful nature that comes out when there's things you don't like. So you push back against everything you don't like. I don't like that. Push back. Everything's push. We live in a culture that creates chaos and rebellion. Ready? It wasn't that way at the beginning, but it is now. So here's what God did. Because we can't self-regulate anymore. I have a sin nature. I want to do sin. I want to do wrong. I want to lie. I want to manipulate. I want to do these things just because I like to do it. God goes, nope. Now we've broken our relationship with God because now I'm a sinner. God puts governments over us to govern us, to keep chaos from happening. After sin, though, God created a structure of governance run by people, even though they're imperfect, to keep order and control chaos like anarchy. Hey, I don't know if you've ever been in an area where there is no police. It's sketchy. Like you go to foreign countries or maybe in some areas of Africa or wherever where it's still tribal. And you can't get on the cell phone and go, I need a little help from the sheriff. Okay? No comprende, nobody's coming. All of a sudden, there's murder happening. People just go from hut to hut, from village to village, murdering, raping, burning stuff down. Who's coming? Nobody's coming because there's no government. It's just the strong survive and the weak dive. And if the weak happens to be you, tough for you. You don't want to live in anarchy. Even a dysfunctional government's better than anarchy. So watch, here's the point. You are built for a government to be over you. Even as imperfect as it is, it's better than none. Because men and women's sinful nature is massive. And you don't want to live where everybody just does whatever they want. Because that's how people die and get broke. So God puts governments over all of us, even while they're imperfect. Here's our principle. Temporary government mirrors the eternal government of God. So let me help you. There will never be a day you don't have somebody ruling over you. It's either going to be a broken government, like the one we're in now, or the government of God someday. There will always be somebody that rules over us. There will always be somebody that has the control, either God or this dysfunctional world that we're in right now. It's still better than no government, though, because then everybody does what they want. Everybody does what's right in their own eyes, and it's absolute chaos and death. Though imperfect, God allows governments to be his servants. They, the governments, not individuals, hold people accountable with jail, death, or going to war. Here we go. I'm going to walk into some areas. Look at me. I'm going to walk into some areas you've never even probably thought of. Can a Christian be an executioner? So sometimes I'll get this. Sometimes you might be in a state or you might live in a state someday that still has capital punishment. Capital punishment means you put people to death if they've killed people, innocent people. Give an example. Somebody walks into a preschool with a gun and just shoots all the babies, kills everybody. And did it on purpose, did it just because he wanted to. He was mad, or whatever the excuse was. And you're in a state that goes, we're gonna put you to death for that because you killed innocent people and you did it on purpose and you're gonna die. So I've been asked many times, hey, I work in the prison system and, is God okay with me giving a lethal injection to put somebody to death or being the electric chair guy? And the answer to that is yes, because when a government decides justice is handed out, you as the executioner are just carrying out the justice that's been instituted by the government God's allowed to exist. You're not carrying that out yourself. There's a difference between corporate justice, governmental justice, and personal vengeance. It's different if that executioner goes home and goes, hey, I saw you jump my fence and you tried to steal my dog instead of my cat. If you would have taken the cat, not a big deal, but you tried to take the dog. And he shoots a guy in his backyard because he's mad. I'm gonna take vengeance on you because you tried to steal something from me. Now he's a murderer. So there's a difference between corporate justice and personal vengeance. And that's what Jesus is referencing here. But watch, Jesus always upholds corporate justice. So you can be, as a Christian, the executioner. You can be a police officer. Sometimes I've had people ask me, hey, I'm thinking about being a police officer. What happens if I have, somebody shooting up the mall or whatever, and I got to go in there and take some guy out? Like, is that okay? Is God going to consider me a murderer? No, because you are protecting people's lives under the authority of the government that says it's just to keep people alive if somebody's trying to murder people. So you are creating order. You're keeping disorder from happening by creating order, by stopping somebody. So understand, ready? You can be an officer, you can be an executioner, you can be in the military. And where do I get that from? Look at Luke 3. Luke 3 is the story where a Roman soldier is speaking to a Jewish John the Baptist. And he goes, what should I do if I want to follow God? And John the Baptist doesn't say, you got to stop being a soldier. You got to stop, being a Roman. I need you to just become a Jew and follow me, eat some bugs, eat some roaches or whatever in the wilderness with me, dressed in these weird clothes. No, he doesn't even say that at all. He doesn't even say he has to quit his job. He just says, don't extort people. Here's the point. If you have authority, use it to bless people, not abuse people. Because people love it when people who are in authority bless those that are under them. People hate authority when they abuse people that are below them. So authority is not the problem. It's just what people do with their authority that's the problem. And here's our principle. All authority is borrowed from God, and those in authority will give an account to him. Here we go. Everybody pay attention. I'm talking to you men that are out here, married guys. Okay, you have a home now. You have a wife. You might even have some babies that irritate you sometimes. Ready? You are the authority in your home. You are the leader of your home. It's not your wife. I know she wants to be. That's probably the majority of your fights, which that's a sermon for another time. Let me start with this. You're the authority. You are the leader. God will hold you accountable to how your home ran. That's both exhilarating and scary. Okay? You took on a wife. You voluntarily took her on as your wife. She took your last name, probably. And you made those babies. And so it's your responsibility to take care of them. That's not somebody else. It's not my responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility. It's your responsibility because you're the authority. You're the man God called to be that man in that situation. Here's the thing. God holds all of us accountable for the authority level he's given us. Men in our homes, police officers, senators, even pastors. The thing that drives me to have fearful awe is when I take those steps every week. And I know that when I open God's word, I'm telling people how God wants them to live. And nothing can strike you with more fear than knowing you're going to have to stand before God and give an account for how you handled God's word, which is why I stay in the Bible and don't go way over here into Oprah's book club or whatever. So one person's happy about it. That's just the truth. I'm not even being facetious. I'm literally being serious. Here's the reason I say that. Romans 14:10 through 12. All authority is borrowed from God, and those in authority will give an account to God. What do I mean? Romans 14:10 through 12. Why do you pass judgment on your brother? Or you, why do you despise your brother? For we will all stand before the judgment seat of God. Wow, that's a scary verse. Every person who's ever lived, God's going to pull billions of people out of the dirt at the last day of history. And he's going to judge every person who's ever lived. And it's not going to be like one-on-one, like, next, like at the dentist's office, a DMV, next, you're in line with billions of people. It's going to take an eternity to get to me. Nope. God's probably going to judge every person at the same time individually because he's God. Here we go. Look at it. Put it back up there. Ready? For we will all stand before the judgment seat of God. For it is written, as I live, says the Lord, every knee will bow to me and every tongue will confess to God. Verse 12, one of the scariest verses in the whole Bible. So then, because of that, each of us will give an account of himself to God. Woo! Wake up and eat those biscuits. The reason I tell you that is this. That's not some scary Bible verse. That's just the reality of what's going to happen at the end of time. So God's going to hold you and me accountable for all authority we've been given over your kids, over your wife, over whatever job you have. If you're a supervisor, if you're a pastor, you're a president, doesn't even matter. God holds you accountable for the way you treated people with the authority you've been given. God instituted governmental punishment to curb evil and also a limit to prevent inappropriate punishment. So what Jesus is talking about here comes out of the law of Moses in Deuteronomy 19, verses 18 through 21. So let me lay this out for you. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. And the rest, everybody else is going to hear about what happened, will hear and fear and will never again commit any such evil among you. Here's what Jesus is referencing, verse 21. Your eye shall not pity. It shall be life for life. So even in Scripture, God expects capital punishment. You take an innocent life on purpose, your life is required of you. We don't put you in jail for 20, 30 years or whatever and give you 3 hots and a cot, okay? It shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So we think, wow, that's gnarly, but I want you to understand that it's both things. One, if I do something to somebody that's going to get done to me, if it's not righteous, that keeps me at bay, because I go, man, I better make sure this is legit before I say something about this person or get him in trouble. I better make sure I got my story straight, that it's just, because that's going to come back on me. So it restrains evil to some degree, and it keeps too much punishment from happening. I mean, there's governments in our world that, like, you steal something, they'll chop your hand right off. That's extreme. For just steal some bread because you're hungry. They'll chop your hand right off, right there in the street. So an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, we think, oh, that's kind of like, man, it's really retributive, which it is, but it's retributive based on what should be just. It also keeps people from going, oh, you broke my fingernail, I'm going to take your eye out. So it keeps it from being overly unjust. It keeps everything in its lane. Capital punishment from a governmental system, not vengeance by an individual, was commanded by God before the law, in the law, which I just read to you, and after the law in the New Testament. What? Yeah, look at this. Look at Romans 13, 1 through 5. Romans 13, 1 through 5. So is that for the New Testament? Because Romans is after Jesus spoke this. Yep. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities. You know what's crazy about this? The apostle Paul wrote this, who's a Jew. And he's under Roman authority. You don't like our government? You should think about writing this while the government of Rome is threatening your life. You know who the emperor was that was over Paul the majority of his life? You know who the guy that cut Paul's head off was? Nero. So think about it. If you think, he's asking us to be submissive to a government. When he's talking about the guy that's ruling him at this time, that's the most satanic, insane buffoon of a ruler you could ask for. So think about this. For there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who's in authority? Then do what is good, and you'll receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. Here it is. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. What are you saying? Are you saying, God, I should stay in line because it's possible my government might put me to death if I break the law? Are you giving the government the authority, or even Christians the authority to, if they're working for the government, to put other people righteously, if it's a justified thing, to death? Yep, put it back up there. Here it is, look at verse 5. Therefore, one must be in subjection, not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. Hey, anybody ever heard of COVID? Remember that time of your life? You know why we were intense? I'm so glad I didn't even plan that, but you know why we were intense in those pictures? Because the government said this, hey, COVID's here, we don't really know what's going on with it, blah, 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 blah. Everybody remembers the story, like, hey, just don't be inside. And so I had a choice as our pastor, is I could go, nope, we're gonna do what we want. And some churches in our valley did that. Remember that? We're gonna worship how we want. Hey, nobody said you can't worship. Whoever said don't worship God? Where's that? Nobody said that, so stop saying that. Nobody said you can't worship God. What they said was, here's the ways that we'd like you to do it. So I said, wow, I'm not allowed to disobey the law of my government, even if I don't like it. Even if I think masks are dumb and it's a prick or a stick or a lickety-split. Whether it's a real thing or a non-thing, whatever, I don't get a choice. I follow my government unless it's a moral issue. And they were just asking, hey, could you, just don't meet inside. So you know what we did? Instead of going, screw you, government, we're gonna do whatever we want, like some places did, and make Christians look bad, and to this day, some people still go, I'm not gonna go to your church because you guys were total tool bags during COVID. We said, you know what, we'll meet outside. You know where those circus tents came from? It's because we said, we're gonna worship God and we're gonna try to obey our government. Two things can happen at the same time. If there ever comes a day where the government goes, you can never worship God, I'm gonna go, forget that, I'm worshiping God. It's always God first. But many people in our culture made it a moral issue when it was just a choice issue. So you know what we did? We met outside. You wanna wear a mask? Wear a mask. You don't feel like wearing a mask? Go sit over there and I'll point a speaker at you. We worked it out, and you know what? God blessed us because we did Romans 13. I didn't agree with everything either. I couldn't care less if you wore a mask or stood upside down or got vaccinated or unvaxxed, or you can't even spell vaccinated. I don't even care. I don't care. Act according to your conscience. But we're gonna worship God. We're gonna worship God. And the government just said, oh, we'd like you to do it like this. So we said, okay, we'll do that. And instead it turned into this weird thing where it's almost like if you did certain things, you weren't even saved. And I go, man, you know what? Some churches in this area are still suffering from the witness they made for Christ when it didn't need to be that way to this day. Some churches are still getting sued because some of their grandparents got sick and died in a church scenario that if they would have acted according to the law, they wouldn't have to worry about it. They're still getting sued to this day. Going to lose some of their property. The point I'm making is this. You follow the rules of the law until the rules tell you something that's a moral thing that you can't follow God. And then you always follow God. But up until that day, you do both. You honor the king and honor God. Because many times those can go together. They did for Paul, and he was under rulership that was satanic in Nero. So it doesn't mean, there's almost no reality that we can't follow our government even if we totally disagree. Wasn't that light and fluffy? Number 2. Here we go. God upholds corporate justice. Number 2, Jesus institutes individual mercy. So this is where it comes down to me and you. Here we go. The religious leaders of Jesus' day were legalistic and taught that people had to be proactive in seeking revenge for any offense based on the law. Instead of being grace and mercy oriented, the people believed it was God's will to look to be offended and seek punishment. You ever heard of a culture that loves to be offended? Ha! We live in that culture. We can't wait to be offended. I hope somebody offends me because I'm gonna blow them up. In fact, we're such a dysfunctional culture, we look to see if other people are offended so we can be offended with them. And it's not even our deal. It's like, you sound like you're really offended. I'm with you, bro. What are we offended about today? Are you that weak that you have to jump on somebody else's offense to be offended because your life's that lame? It's like our culture just goes, what's the next thing I can be offended about? What's the next clickbait thing that we can like put up on the internet so everybody can go, even if it's not even true, we just start a fire. That was true in Jesus' day too. I'm looking to be offended, and when I get offended, man, we're going to court. So Jesus says this. Here's our principle. The inability to overlook an offense and move on is evidence of being emotionally weak and spiritually immature. Hey, if you get offended about everything, if you're agitated about everything, if you have a problem with everybody, you're the problem. You are the agitator. Everywhere I go, everybody just seems to be agitated because you're agitating them. It's so weird because you're weird. You're bringing the agitation to the party. Stop that. Stop that. Live in peace. Stop starting fires. Stop starting drama. Be dramaless. Unless you're actually in a play, then be drama. Look what Jesus says. Actually, look at Proverbs 19:11. I love this. Proverbs 19:11. If you struggle in this area, this is a great verse. Good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offense. Imagine if somebody offended you and you went, thanks for the info, bro, I'm good. What? You're not gonna post about it? You're not gonna Yelp about it? What? No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for telling me I look like trash. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you for telling me my car's a piece of junk. Because I kind of agree. Thank you. Wait a second, you just defanged my whole anger thing. Yeah? No, I'm good. I don't live for your approval. I'm good. We live in a culture, it's like, there's so many ice cubes in my cup, in my drink. They must be scraping it off of Antarctica. It's no wonder we're losing all the Arctic ice caps. It's global warming that's happening right here at McDonald's. I can't understand why is there so many ice cubes here. God help us. I'm gonna Yelp. Oh my gosh, you wanna know why global warming's happening? Because McDonald's puts way too much ice in this cup. Wait, didn't you just do that yourself at the ice machine? Yeah, but it shouldn't be coming out that fast. Like literally, this is your life? Hey, it's the glory of a man or a woman to just overlook an offense. I'm not gonna live in drama, man. Let's just live in peace. And even the things that offend me, I get over it because I'm greater than that offense. I don't live way down here where just offenses are just like everybody poking. Just live above that. That's what Jesus is talking about here. Here it is. Being ruled by Rome, Jews had few legal options and often sought personal vengeance. Vengeance is often just a selfish desire to inflict pain on someone else rather than gain justice. And it often brings pain to us when we are vengeful rather than closure. Woo! Hey, listen to me when I'm talking about vengeance. Look at me. Here's what I'm saying. Let me give you a story, true story. My sister was molested by a youth pastor. And so I remember the day that me and my father stood on a guy's lawn while this guy was arrested, I remember him coming out in handcuffs, walking down the sidewalk while me and my dad were standing right there. And there was a moment where I almost killed him. So, ready? So if you're like, you don't have to know, no, I know a little. I know a little about how you might feel. I almost murdered a guy on the sidewalk because of my anger. This is before I became a pastor. Ironic, I even became a pastor, right? So, what I realized in that moment was God gave me supernatural self-control to allow the system to take care of what needed to happen rather than me taking care of it. Because here's what would have happened. I would have murdered that man on the sidewalk. You know what happens then? Now I go to jail. Now my son grows up without me, and my wife doesn't have a husband, and I don't become a pastor. Literally, there was a moment where my life could have gone like this. And instead of being here with you, doing God stuff, I'm over here in prison, reading a Bible. That's what I'm talking about. Is there perfect justice in this world? Nope. Here's what I am saying though. There is perfect justice someday. And you just kind of go, Jesus, you're God, you handle it. I'm gonna live in peace. I'm not gonna be a slave to my feelings. Jesus uses the example of a right-handed person backhandedly slapping the right cheek of another person to depict personal offense. Look at me, I'm done. Hey, this is heavy, look at me. Here's what Jesus is picturing in the Middle East, if you're Middle Eastern in here today. So this is literally happening where there's war happening right now, where Jesus is talking about this. If you're Middle Eastern, even to this day, sometimes men will kiss each other on the cheek when they greet each other. And also, the way they shake hands in the Middle East is a little bit different, and in Asian countries. What Jesus is talking about here 2,000 years ago is when you humiliate somebody or shame somebody in public, it's the worst of all worlds. Our culture doesn't feel shame. We have no shame anymore. It's like we brag about being on OnlyFans or whatever and being our next door neighbor or whatever. Like our culture has zero shame. How we dress, how we talk, things we do. But when Jesus was talking to his culture, they had a high regard for shame. You shame somebody in public, woo, it was game on like Donkey Kong. So Jesus is saying this, all righteous people are right-handed. All you lefties are just weird. My son happens to be left-handed. Almost all the majority of the people in the world are right-handed. So when Jesus talks about this, if you were to slap somebody with your right hand on a right cheek, you find out that your right hand actually connects with their left cheek. So Jesus is saying this, it's a backhanded right-handed slap. It's using your right hand to backhandedly hit the right cheek of the other guy. So it's a means of insult. It's not a punch like a bar fight. It's a means of insult. It's a public insult to go, bam, now what do you got? I just publicly insulted another grown man in public. And it's one of the worst things that could happen to an individual. It's like somebody offending you at a bar or whatever, challenging you. And Jesus goes, instead of going crazy, you just go, how about my left cheek? And to their culture, they would have been like, you're not offended? You're not gonna go crazy? We're not gonna go to court or get in a fist fight? Nope, I'm living in peace because I'm greater than the offense you just did to me. Understand, ready? Jesus is saying, whatever offends you, don't let it rule you. Let me help you. Teenagers, 20-somethings, everybody that lives through their thumbs. Look at me. Ready? I'm going to speak right into your world. Look at me. Whatever has the power to offend you has the power to rule you. Because the thing that rules you is how it makes you feel. And how you feel will be how you act. So don't let people rule your life by ruling you through your feelings. Overcome your feelings by trusting God. I don't have to go crazy over everything. I don't have to yelp about everything. Dude, I'm gonna live in peace. I'm not gonna live in drama and chaos because God's in control. God's got me, I'm good. I close with this. Showing grace, especially when wronged, is so unnatural. It's the epitome of a kingdom citizen. Here's our closing principle. Jesus shines the brightest when people act the darkest. Hey, you want Jesus to shine through you? Yep. Then when you're offended, just go, please merge in front of me. I know you just flipped me off. Be blessed. BMW that doesn't use the turn signal. Come on. When you're driving in the fast lane and you see the Prius. God bless you. Thank you for helping me drive 40. Thank you for helping my safety. Ready? Ready? Here's my encouragement for you this week from Jesus. Hey, don't look to be offended, look to be grace-filled. That way you live in freedom, not the pain of vengeance. Live in freedom this week because God has called us to freedom. Emotionally, relationally. Be the man or woman God built you to be this week. Shine the brightest when people are the darkest to you.